Okay, are there any modifications, additions to the agenda?
No.
And then we'll open the public hearing on the approved budget for fiscal year 24-25. Is there any public comment? Anything in the packet? Here. And we'll move forward to a consent agenda.
I just have one question about, I think just one question about one item in the consent agenda. One is on page 132 in the contract with Jeff Arts Company.
Yes.
There's a little comment down below. We had talked about trying to make as much money off the Hobie hangar as possible. There's a comment that says about finding a highest bidder, not sure if legal or doable. Is that an editorial remark by Bernard?
No, that should have been edited out.
Oh, okay,
Otherwise, we would have just removed it. So it is legal and it is doable.
okay, excellent.
So just cross that out.
I also had a quick question about the employee benefit program, which is item I.
Yes.
It seems like there are, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you guys do your health insurance and your dental plans and stuff, it seems like there are a whole lot of different options and each employee chooses from those different options.
Well, we actually have to, as a group, choose which one.
Oh,
They
so where there was like, the PPO options, there were like 5 or 6 or something. So you as a group choose which one you're
Yeah.
gonna do.
Exactly.
Okay,
And so this year, what we did is we actually, in order to try to manage costs, we raised the deductible,
yeah,
which brought the premium down, and then we're self-insuring for 50% of that
a
increase,
little bit, and that saves us money.
and that saves us.
So how does it compare to what we were paying last year? Is it a
Like
slight
about
increase?
6.
Yeah, it's, so we went up, let's see, this adjustment translates to an approximate annual increase of 69,000 in the port's expenses. It would have been, almost another 30,000.
Yeah, I read that and I had.
Seemed like a big number.
Yeah, all premiums right now are
The whole insurance industry right now.
really crazy
Oh,
right
yeah.
now.
That was what, and Commissioner Chapman and I discussed this because, when you look at the city and the counties policies for comparables, they're much lower. And the reason is we've got 30 employees, the city's 70, the county is 170. I did confirm that number. So they just have more numbers.
But can we not form a new pool?
Well, we are in
Well,
the,
When I say we, I mean, we,
the port.
no,
No,
or
or
in the
with the
city and the
county.
county. Can we form a new pool?
Well, we would
Define it.
probably end up dragging the city and the county up. Because they also have other cities and other counties
Well,
that they're also part of a pool.
so if I can clarify the conversation that I had with Kevin is this is up for renewal. Kind of is what it is at this point. One of the things I did talk to Kevin because we are discussing the budget, ways that we can cut corners, not cut corners, ways we can streamline things. And that we should probably dive into this a little bit more, research it, make sure we're on par with things as far as benefits go and we might have to make some different choices next year.
So one other question, when you look at the healthcare plan, does the one that we selected have a cap on it?
Like as far as.
Like $1 million cap?
No, my understanding is that it's unlimited. There's a limit on what the employee pays out.
No, that I
Okay.
understand. What I'm concerned about,
Yeah.
and I've lived it. If there's unlimited, I'm absolutely fine with it.
Okay.
There's a lot of policies out there that are cheaper, but it's $1 million cap.
Mhm.
And God forbid, but if you get cancer, you blow through $1 million like that.
Absolutely.
So I just want to make sure that it's unlimited.
Yeah, it is. And
Okay.
I appreciate you noting that.
No other questions for me about the consent.
Then if not, can I get a motion?
Move that we approve the consent agenda. As each individual item's been written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, informational reports none, presentation and discussion item. 501c3.
Yes, and so this is, hello, Commissioner. So this is an item that came up at the last meeting as a kind of an out of the box way of looking at other revenue streams. And so Debbie did do some research on forming a 501c3. I did put a request into Ashley, our attorney at Barry Melsner, to get kind of what's a cost estimate for doing articles of incorporation, which is kind of the first step. And haven't gotten back from her yet. But as you notice, there's a determination letter that comes from the IRS. And I actually know a city on the coast that's doing a similar process right now. And that determination letter has taken a while. It's been about 4 months. So it's not necessarily a quick process.
Correct.
But I'm thinking it's somewhere in the $5,000 range to get this up and running. And we would set up our own QuickBooks. I mean, we've got a QuickBooks account, so we'll just set up a separate entity, kind of like what we've been doing with the Bridge Authority. And so we certainly can do that. So it's open to discussion as far as what to see what if you're interested in pursuing this, or
I can't remember, were you thinking about doing it for a particular area
well,
or?
it started primarily with the airport, because there's a lot of talk about the public administration building. And so, but then obviously our parks are the other area where, there's a lot of potential need. And there's other nonprofit opportunities for Parks and Rec. And so I think those were the two primary reasons for the discussion.
So I have a question. I read through all the stuff. I understand it costs a couple $1,000s to get one up and going. What's the kind of rough estimate of an annual cost for the maintenance stuff, like because you
QuickBooks and stuff.
yeah, because you noted in there, like, there's certain accounting things that need to be done, a certain form that has to be filed every year, and port staff can take care of that stuff. What do you think that ongoing cost?
I'm thinking like the monthly, because there's not going to be a lot of activity, and so it's kind of just babying it along. So, maybe an hour a month, until you get some significant, and then maybe at the end of the year, doing some paperwork prep, which, might be half a day.
Right.
Because there's just not going to be a lot of activity, certainly in the first.
I can certainly see it like at the airport, if you make the airport totally 501c. If you mix it, that you have some of it, for a better word, normal, and some of it 501. How do you make sure that you're charging properly, following the rules? I would think if you did that, your ongoing costs would be higher.
Right.
And
So,
auditing. And
yes.
everything else.
So it's kind of like what we do with the ports budget, like the general fund has those departments. If you recall, there's the airport, marina, so on and so forth. We would kind of do the same thing. You'd have the nonprofit, but then you'd have a airport department within there, and then a waterfront rec department. And so those are all coded. They would have, I think the last 5 digits are the same numbers, but the first 3 digits are different.
But you wouldn't have anything at the airport that would not fall under the 501c.
Oh,
You
so
would mix things there, but
It's really up to you guys what you want spent or not.
but where I'm coming
Yeah.
from is. What's the benefit of doing that and what's the liability of doing it? If we did a 501c, does that shut us down from federal grants?
Well, that's why we want to keep it both. So
But
five
then
oh one,
you gotta make sure that you understand the rules
Right.
of what goes into each one, and then you better be following.
So the rules for the 501(c)(3) is the same donation rules apply to public individual companies as apply to them giving money to the government, the port. So any citizen or company, whether it's not for profit or a for-profit company, can give money to the port, a donation, and say, I would like the port to use this money for a new dock at the marina, for instance. They can earmark it, and then the port can say, the commission, we could say, well, no, we don't want to accept that under those conditions. That's a legitimate thing we can say, or we can say, yes, we will take your $1 million to build a dock at the marina. If we do that, then we're legally required to sort of track that money, keep it separate, and then use it for that dock. Now, that's completely without a 501(c)(3). That's just something a government can do.
that's just,
What the 501(c)(3) does is it allows certain other not-for-profits who are required to only give charitable donations to 501(c)(3)s. So maybe there's a charitable organization, they look at the port and they're like, we would like to support an emergency resource center at the airport, or a marina at the dock, or parks, public parks on the waterfront. But we can't give money to the government because of our rules, but we can give it to a 501(c)(3). So having the 501(c)(3) doesn't impose any new or different obligations on the port, because the port's still required to follow those earmark instructions if they accept the money. It just allows us to get money from more places. And that's why I initially, was pushing this, just because I've got people coming to me saying, hey, we think we can get a couple $100,000, but we need to give it to a 501(c)(3). And the school district already has one of these and does this exact same sort of thing that we're looking at here. So, and then just sort of theory crafting, looking at, like, let's say we are building the war chest to build a terminal building at the airport that's also an emergency resource center. Some of that money could come from federal grants, like one the county's working on. Some of it could come from our own 501(c)(3). Those monies can be mixed, and it doesn't,
Okay, that was my real concern.
I know, it doesn't hurt our requests or anything. Like annually, we get like $160,000 to the airport from the FAA. They just are like, here. And we can get money from the Oregon Department of Aviation every year if we apply for grants. It doesn't hurt those.
Okay.
So, I'm very for it for these reasons.
I guess I'm for it, but maybe we start a little slow. We do it for the airport first. Get some history on it, and as we learn that, we see how could we apply it to the Marina Green and recreational area, but.
one thing's just getting it set up is the step one.
Yeah, and then as a tool, I think the commission, that's the sort of thing that we look at on an annual basis. Does this make sense? Are we utilizing it or not? And if we're not, then,
So with that, are you thinking that you'd like that nonprofit to be set up specifically for the airport then, or?
Seems like it would be wise to set it up as a blanket,
so that we can.
and
use
we
it in
can
the
start
future.
focusing on the airport first,
Yeah.
but let's go broader.
Yeah, so the tool's set up for everything,
Mhm.
but we focus the first year or two on the airport.
And seeing how it works. I think that's a great idea, and I'm already putting together ideas for fundraising campaign for it,
Mhm.
so.
Okay, so it sounds like there's consensus to move forward. Obviously, there's going to be forms and things that we'll need to bring for you that will be your opportunity to kind of dig in a little deeper at that time. But we'll start getting the ball rolling.
Wonderful. And now for the executive director report, Mr. Greenwood.
All right, just a couple of things in the that I wanted to report that weren't in the written, or just wanted to written report bring to your attention. One, we do have a couple of bridge lift announcements that we do need to start issuing. This is with Janney, who is our mechanical electrical engineer. So they do their biannual every other year reports. And so that is happening June 24th through the 28th.
That was my question, that what was really going on.
Yes, and so
Are you actually gonna lift the span or
Yes.
just inspect the?
So during their inspections, they do bearing checks. And so we have 3 separate spots we stop at. Check the bearings at the same spot to see if they've increased or not, both towers.
Are you gonna have the other engineer monitoring it?
Yes, yes,
Remote monitoring in case we
yes.
get stuff?
So per your guys' request, that is now, we've got a cost for each lift with Janney and Panatrol.
So that's happening, so there's gonna be, it's one of these things where it's going, we don't know the specific times. And so it's, one of those that starts at 7 until 3, and based upon what they find, will precipitate subsequent lifts. And so one of the ways that we're gonna mitigate that is if there's a lift that's needed for more than 15 minutes, we're gonna bring out the barrier so people don't get stuck on the bridge, because that's what people get really
You
frustrated.
get a message on the other side?
Yes,
And I've already texted the 2 mayors and Jake Anderson, just so they know. So anyway, so there's gonna be announcements coming out tomorrow, and then there was an announcement today for a bridge lift this Friday from 5:30 to 6. And so that shouldn't affect too many folks.
What are we doing there?
just maintenance. Make sure it's greased up for the big work through.
And then just wanted to follow up on the parking. There you saw the minutes from the city meeting with our engineer. We did learn, or I kind of discovered, that the lease with the Maritime building down at the end of Portway, that where the fence is located, is not the boundaries of the lease of Maritime. So once I kind of discovered that kind of, if the commission wants, you can extend the parking from where we were talking about and double up the parking. You would just push that fence closer to the building. I think their lease is 20 feet from the building. I did talk with the county, that could be counted for any future development. That could be parking that could go to meet the requirements of whatever you guys decide to do.
Because the tenant doesn't use very many parking spots, so it wouldn't negatively impact them.
I mean, altogether, you'd have 100 spots there.
Be great.
You know, it'd double it up. You'd go basically from 50 to 100, and that we ended up lessening the total number of spaces because Daryl kind of gave some updated diameter or measurements on the vehicle. So we're looking at a 9 by 20, I think, is what we're going for.
Don't want to cram the sprinter vans. Yeah.
Right. I guess a standard parking space is 8.5 by 18.
Yeah, I know.
So add that and then go with a 26-foot aisle, which would just allow for more.
The only thing that would concern me on that, extending that parking lot into Maritime, is that property is gonna need to be redeveloped 5-ish years from now. We have drawings from years ago, but we haven't talked about it. Right. If we're going to double the size of that parking lot, how much more is that gonna cost, especially from a stormwater drainage, utilities, everything point of view? And is that going to pay for itself over 5 years, one? And would it hamstring future development we haven't even talked about yet?
Right.
Put it there and then you're stuck with it if you put in the utilities for it.
So I haven't talked to the engineer to start looking into this. I kind of want to just to kind of get your, you know, is this something we should have the engineer look into? Now, on the existing plan for the 50, that not counting the additional space, we were talking to the city about keeping the western boundary of that parking relatively open. Don't put a lot of infrastructure on that site, so that if there is development to the west, there's less stuff in the way. So here, we could do the same if it extends. We would just minimize the amount of curbing and trees and other stuff. We can put that in other parts of the parking, hopefully on the city park side, on the east side of the lot. So I mean, that's kind of why I wanted to bring this to you to see if that was worth it. It will be more expensive, clearly, but I think there is some cost savings by having 100 parking spots done all at once versus doing 50 and then coming back in 5 years and doing another 50.
Is that original 50 on the new outfall pipe, or is that first 50 will be on the outfall?
Correct.
So this would be on, not East Maritime, this would be actually on Maritime.
That's correct. It would be just to the east of the building. Of the Maritime building.
I'm just trying to think about developments in the future, and I guess we won't be developing it, probably it'll be something else, but that's where your parking lot's gonna be. That's probably where it would be anyway.
Yeah, just, so this is the outfall area, and so that's where we're doing the 50. And then the actual boundary comes all the way over about 20 feet to the east, so you've got almost an equal number.
If we're gonna do that, fine, because that's probably where you put your parking lot anyway, if you're building a new building there, but can we please get whatever is gonna need to be underground
Yes,
for future redevelopment, like even if it's open conduit?
Yeah.
Running stuff,
sure.
get it under there so we don't have to rip up our brand new parking lot in 5 years. And keep that in mind when we're building it.
Onto this.
So if you guys are good, I'll just get some preliminary stuff. Obviously, this is gonna be a little bit of an adjustment to Carlos's contract, so we'll need to bring that to you as well.
Okay.
Just one thing that we were talking about in staff meeting today, so the use of Marina Green, right now, we do charge users $15 to use that field to secure the schedule, to secure the field. But we're getting a lot of requests by recreation leagues where teams are paying money to be part of the league. And so we're looking for more of a $25 fee per use to secure that schedule, but they're receiving money. So we feel like we should have a little bit more there on that side. And then, of course, it's $0 if individuals or groups just want to go, not have a schedule. If it's free, you can use it until they run into somebody that's actually paid for time. But just wanted to get that on your radar. And then I'm going to be, Thursday's my last day, then I'll be back the 21st. Debbie is going to be the pro tem, and then if she's not available, then Daryl will be running the place, and then Ryan if something happens to Daryl. So we got that discussed this morning. And then the Centennial prep. So there's some information in your packet. It looks like Sunday, October 6th, with a bridge closure from 9:45 to 12:45. And a couple of the highlights on that I just wanted to make sure you're aware of and get consensus on this is $10 per participant, and that would include music and food, shirts, and memorabilia would be extra. We're also thinking that no pets and no bicycles during that time, just to minimize conflicts. And that True West events, which they're the ones that do the Hop Fest, and the vast majority of events would be kind of running the whole show. But we're not event coordinators, and so it's going to be kind of a big deal, and we need to start marketing and publishing. But we're going to publishing ads and so forth. But there's going to be a planning session tomorrow. So if anybody's interested, or Chrissy, I don't know if you wanted to sit in on that. I think that was at 2 o'clock.
Try.
Okay.
This organization, what are they called? True West, did you say?
Yes, they're for profit.
Did they, and do they have experience doing fun runs specifically?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And they're recommending a $10 entry fee for the fun run? Or-
Yeah, and that frankly, that was the issue that I thought was worth discussion.
Because most of them cost more.
So it is not going to be, it's not going to be a 5K, 10K
Oh,
half
okay.
marathon.
Okay.
It's basically a fun run to the end
Across the
of the bridge.
bridge.
And back. You know,
Okay.
Maybe it's just me, but is somebody taking a look at that bridge and running across that bridge. Isn't there a whole bunch of tripping hazards all the way across that thing?
Potentially,
So why would we want to have a run? I
Yeah.
could see a walk,
I call it a fun walk.
Yeah. We'll call
but you
it.
don't want people running on that thing. And who's got the liability? We do, right?
Well, doesn't the vendor have an insurance policy?
Yes, so True West has general liability insurance, but, you
Okay,
know, we'd want to make sure that there wasn't any tripping hazards. I mean, the whole
Thing is a
Yeah.
tripping hazard. Would you run across that?
well, Kevin saw me running across
He
it,
has,
but
he has run across it.
I have had
You're
a,
on one leg.
yes,
right?
I have had a flagger backing up, trip over one of the, because the decks aren't all the same.
Hmm.
So
So,
maybe we refer to it as a walk.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, but maybe we're asking our insurance company if they have event flyers that we could have for just a certain day. Just in case, they must have been asked that.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, when this whole idea came up, Scott Rainier was the first guy I called.
Yeah.
You know, for obvious reasons, and so he was fine, but no, that's absolutely, if we want to just focus as a walk.
The issue is that grading.
Yeah.
Is not a flat deck.
yes,
And I can just see little kids tripping on it, falling over, you know, breaking skin.
which brings up another question about the guard railing
Mhm.
that has some nicks. So we could, you know, we have a bunch in the back that we can do a replacement prior to, if
That'll
needed.
probably be conversations that we have with her.
Well, we're gonna have flag, in fact, you guys have done flagging, quotes, so. True West, you know, there's gonna be a lot of infrastructure in place, that's part of the reason why there's costs, I mean, we wanna make sure that. You know, there's some barriers along, right up against the railing, first aid, So there's a lot of details that will need to be worked, but wanted to get,
It seems like though, I mean, if we're looking at it now, if we, you know, so that people aren't going up to the edge of the bridge and holding on and looking over and whatnot, you know, just get the pennant thing and create the course.
Yep.
Yeah.
And maybe if one side of the bridge is more even than the other, or if it, you know,
That's what we do it.
Yeah,
guide them.
Yeah.
But I do agree, I don't think that we should be letting them stop and lean over the side of the bridge.
So you're not gonna be able to stop that.
Well, yeah, I mean, if everyone's on a,
I guarantee.
well, I know people that,
Yeah,
and that's where the waiver, you know, and those types of things will, and that's another reason for having the fee. Is it's another way to track numbers and to know
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
the participants are.
I mean, there has to be a way to do it, because Bridge of the Gods does it every year, and they're not, I mean, I don't think.
we
that
ought to
they're
call them and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not doing.
Waivers,
Well,
yeah,
their guardrail never gets hit either.
okay.
All right, so,
Next.
so that, and then federalization of current bridge, really good discussion that Commissioner Fox has been tracking as well as I have just on when work happens on the replacement bridge. We don't want any unintended activities that federalizes the existing bridge. And so the main issue there is any design or planning for the removal of the existing bridge is the primary item that could federalize the existing bridge. So we just really want to make sure that that work does not happen until after July 1 of 2026.
And we made a big point of communicating that with Keywood. We've had lots of discussions on it. And we'll write a letter as well to make sure it's in the contract. But yeah, we had a lot of discussions with Federal Highway. Getting their read on it, and it's in writing now, so we can estimate what it's gonna cost. And that doesn't hurt it, but if we start the true plan for it, then we're stuck, so.
So thank you, Commissioner, for tracking that for us.
The other one associated with that, but I don't know if everybody understands. Is that since the foundations on the Oregon side on the existing bridge is not in bedrock. It's not in bedrock. it's in gravel. 150 feet away, we're building a new foundation. That foundation, how we build it, has to take into consideration, you can't allow this to move. Which probably means it's gonna be a more expensive excavation, it'll be a drilled shaft kind. And we're gonna have to put sensors over here to make sure if this thing starts to move, stop. Otherwise, there is a possibility that this thing could go.
Is there a recommendation from the engineer at this time of, do they say, you know, that should be the first side we work on for various reasons, or that needs to be the last side?
Well,
Tie it
where-
all together.
where the real work is on the Oregon side. The Washington side is very shallow. So the amount of excavation or pile driving or shaft drilling will be very minor over there. It's all over here.
Let's see, and then just moving along, North Apron easement with Terry Brandt. So we did have received feedback from Mr. Brandt. We're awaiting comments from their attorney. We're kind of in the back and forth stage on that, so that's ongoing. Also, Ann, our leasing agent, is recommending windows for the Big Seven. Apparently, she's getting feedback. Apparently, these windows have this issue has been out there for a while. The building's pretty old, and so I believe that there were prior reports of structural issues. And for, you start popping holes in the side of that masonry wall, there could be unintended consequences. And so Ryan has talked to a structural engineer that a lot of those rooms in that building are very dark. And so if she's trying to fill them up, she's recommending windows. And so just we can go ahead and, I don't think it's going to be very expensive to have structural look at it, but we could get the 3 bids. In fact, I think Ryan's really close to having them already. But just wanted to get that on your radar, and get any feedback from you on that.
Kevin, when they're going in, if it is truly light, 'cause I understand there's a difference in light and visually looking out a window to nature. But if it's truly light and if we have problems in some areas, could we also have an engineer look in solar cans? That could pop through the roof and come down, and those bring in a ton of light, but it doesn't bring in a view.
Yeah.
Is it on the, and I don't know the building, but where they want to put the windows, is it on the top floor or the?
It's the
second
main
floor?
level. The main level where the entry doors are.
So,
Well, it depends, sometimes you can sneak
Yeah.
through.
Oh, I see.
That's what I'm saying, like, if there's like closets stacked up or.
so when will you have the engineering evaluation of whether you can punch a hole on the?
Meeting with one on Friday to just overlook the site. He's already done some work on Big Seven in the past on the north wall. So he should have most of it already.
Those are concrete walls
Yes,
or are they studded?
the concrete, all concrete. Anywhere from 12 to 15 inches. Yeah,
It's a thing.
And it kind of comes back to that, depending on what, I assume that this is gonna be over my purchase authority. And so then.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it is.
I think just the
So-
cutting part is over.
So then the question is what's the return on investment, right? So if it's leasing, it's gonna be a long time to get that back. If you're selling, that's a different story. If that can help future tenants.
But first we need to know. the feasibility.
Exactly. So, okay, we'll go ahead and package that up in the next meeting, get something up
There's
to.
rebar in those walls.
I would assume, but I don't know for a fact yet. And how much. So they'll probably have to do the scanner before we even start.
And then just the last thing, I do want to draw your attention to page 169. And that's the committee memberships. And so just kind of want to review that Commissioners Gearing Beaker for Airport Advisory Committee is. I was thinking maybe if we could just real quickly go through this. We could maybe prepare a final document for approval in July.
169.
On the backside, the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association, we did pull that, we're no longer members there. And really same with the Hood River County Energy Council, even though their charter has a spot for us.
Yeah, so. Who you got there is no longer here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So right now, if I start, I don't see any changes, there were no changes on the first page that jumped out at me, other than just noting the term expirations for the other committee members and making sure that we don't get into that situation with the AAC that we did last year. So we just want to get them renewed. But then on the backside, we've got the Internal Bridge Committee. I think that's a 1-year term. Similar to the Finance and Personnel Internal Committees. The Hood River Urban Renewal Agency, that our membership on the Urban Renewal Agency expires at the end of December 2024. There's a stormwater project that they kind of felt they would keep us on there for at least through the end of the calendar year. Hood River County Energy Council, those could be just NAs unless somebody's wanting to hop on board. Hood River County Economic Development Group, that's primarily for me. One Gorge Advocacy Group is very informal. I know the Bridge Authority has been engaging with them. Genevieve did that one in the past. I mean, I would go there just if there's some interesting topics.
Yeah, we're on the new bridge, we're interfacing with a lot. Yeah.
Oh, I-
See, there's.
Yeah.
There's some benefit to it.
I think the most of it is the first page, if any of the commissioners want to switch around on the main committees.
I'm good with everything there.
And then chamber, I do know that we've got a ex officio member there, so Commissioner Garing is the main individual with Commissioner Chapman as the alternate. PNWA's gone, OPPA, I attend that. Christy, do you want to be the commissioner, or would somebody else, if there's a need for a commissioner involvement, any interest with that? It's
From what, the public ports?
Oregon Public Ports Association. They're primarily a government affairs advocacy group. You know, that's where, you know, they're not necessarily going to advocate for specific port projects, like they wouldn't go and advocate for the bridge. But if you can have, if there's an issue that affects 2 or more ports, that's what they tend to go out and advocate for. So I don't know if there's anybody want to be involved with that?
Christie said, sure.
I did.
Okay, excellent. And then Oregon Airport Managers Association, I think Jeff Bernard, who is your new airport manager for 6 months, will be serving in that role on a staff capacity. I'm sure Commissioner Beaker would be in there.
You can, yeah, put me down. If it doesn't cost us anything to have me be assigned to OAMA, then I found them to be a very useful organization for airport ideas and networking. So I'm happy to be involved with that.
Ben had a good point for the OPPA. Just
Yeah.
have it be whoever's president.
Gotcha, okay. Excellent. I will finalize that and bring that back to you next month. That's all I have, unless there's any other questions in the report.
And I do have one comment. If you turn to page 166. This is a progress report on WSP on basically the roundabout. And this one was aimed at, I think, both Kevin and Ben. When you look at the report that they show, owner's rep contract, budget spent and so on. Just a and budget remaining, and then they say percent complete. That's not percent complete, that's percent spent,
Percent spent.
which doesn't mean anything. So if you wanted, you could have a lot of fun with these guys. So if they were here today, I would say, could you please explain to me? Court and agency coordination, you are 3.38% complete. How'd you calculate that? That's a very finite number. So what I would suggest you guys do, and now is the time to do it. Get them to put another column on here, and one is percent spent. And the other one is percent complete. Now, percent complete is where are they really on their schedule getting work done? Now, if the percent complete is less than the percent spent, that means they're overrun.
Sure, but isn't their percent complete just gonna be their own sort of, it's gonna be their best estimate, right?
Theoretically, and on real projects,
They stop the account.
they've got a
Okay.
schedule
Okay,
and they've got deliverables. And once they hit a milestone,
Yeah.
that releases a certain amount of.
okay, right, I like it, right?
So. It doesn't matter today, but as you go forward with that project, any project. You know, that's something to watch out for, and that's. 99.9999% of contractors that do this work understand what I just said. Gotcha. It's the 0.000001. You're in trouble. And all the rest of them, if they're not doing something like this, you're in trouble too, because you're running blind. That's all we are.
Yeah, that's easy. I'll definitely talk to
So
Scott.
you could have some fun with it, because I saw they were doing this when I was with them.
Oh, on the stuff.
And I'm making darn sure that Keywood and HNTP does not do that. We've already had that discussion.
I've got a question for you, Kevin, and you may not have an answer for me today, and that's okay. I noticed that Columbia River Pilots is enjoying objecting to pretty much everything there is to object to. And that, the Coast Guard is hesitant to release a notice while they're objecting. Ultimately, if they're just like, well, we're just gonna continue objecting, and we're saying, well, it's important to us to have this notice. What's the Coast Guard gonna do you think?
So I think that this has been resolved.
Okay.
And this actually has a connection with the bridge authority as well, because they've been objecting to the height on the
Proposed
proposed
bridge, which we've already said, and the
Yeah.
Coast Guard has already given us approval on.
Right.
So it's one individual that wasn't involved earlier, and all of a sudden they've shown up and started asking some questions. And both parties, both sides have worked this now with the Coast Guard. We think we've got it shut down.
Yes,
I think it was.
Yeah. And for the last X number of years,
In that,
we've had zero.
Yeah.
Traffic,
oh, yeah.
okay,
That's it.
so
yeah,
what we found out
I-
very recently, just an interest. The height of the bridge is really set by the height of the Biggs Bridge.
Right.
That's 81 feet. And we're 10 feet plus over that on the new bridge. So, and when you really take a look at what we've really lifted this bridge for, it's been years since
Yeah.
we've lifted something that really needed to be lifted.
yeah. So, you know, I talked to the guy at Columbia River Pilots, and apparently one of the things he was interested in are these big blades.
Mhm.
That's the industry that they were getting excited about. That
They're
if for,
green energy blades.
if for some reason that those start getting barging up, he said those get pretty tall, and so.
But even if you
But
stack
you wanna go to
three
Dick's?
of them on top of each
They're
other,
not
it's
that
still much.
Okay,
Very small.
cool.
So anyway, that's all I have for the ED report, unless there's any other
No.
questions.
Any other commissioner reports? Commissioner reports?
I'll give you one real quick one. I think it was somewhere in Kevin's report. we hit a milestone, we got our biological opinion signed off. Finally, that's 4 or 5 years in the process. That's a real big win for us. The second piece that's holding up the rod is the section 106 agreement with the Yakimas on cultural stuff. The Yakimas have already turned in their document, which basically says they don't have a problem.
Oh, good.
It's clear. So now it's in final review back with the feds, and that one should be close to getting signed off, because there's nobody protesting it.
We're
So
gonna
what leaves is,
Celebration for that.
well, we will once that one's done. So what leaves is 4 treaty tribes on fishing rights. And we've been negotiating hard with all 4 of them. We got the first one, I think, over the top. We've agreed on financial benefit. We've agreed on a number. And one other thing that they wanted, which we already agreed to. They didn't know it, but we did. So where it is now is that committee of the tribe, and it's the Umatillas, are proceeding forward with a recommendation to sign to their council in late June.
Great.
So that'll be our first one over the top. We kind of think the other 3 will fall in line pretty quick now.
Fantastic, good job.
Yeah, it's been long.
Big. It's 5 years big. Okay, any other questions, any reports? Not, I will move us to close the public hearing on approved budget for fiscal year 24-25. And then we have action items.
Yes.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Sure, so this is the state required approval of the budget and the budget adoption. There's 2 things here, just want to bring to your attention very quickly, page 225. That's that shows you the $10,000 reduction on dues and memberships. That's the admin fund resources page. I'm not sure if you've got double printed page numbers on the budget, it kind of is hard to read those.
25.
Yeah, 225. If you look for page 229 and then count backwards, it's easier. Or 260. If you go 265 is the last one that you can actually read.
Look back to 229 and I did.
Let's see. Yeah, it's right here, 33. So I don't know
Oh.
what number that is.
Okay. All right.
Sorry about that.
All right. No. So
I'm on 221, but you know, mine without.
expect, what's at the top of the page?
Administration fund.
Administration fund.
That.
Yeah, I'm on the same page now. Okay, dues and memberships.
Close.
Yep.
I trust you, so wait,
Yeah.
So,
10 grand out.
well, there's
Right.
I'll have to go back and look at what they were, but we just pulled, PNWA, pulled,
That
all
was a
the
big one.
Energy Council. And then there's a few smaller ones.
Okay.
but we've made the down payment of 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
And then the other one is on, it's in the capital outlay, for the administration fund on the maintenance department. So if you go to page 229, which you can read that page number, and then go 2 pages back to 227.
Just there, Kevin.
I know. That'll show you the capital outlay for the 2 trucks. Now, there was $100,000 in there last year that did not get spent for trucks. So we're doing 85,000 for the same 2 trucks this year. You see that change there? Okay.
Yep.
So anyway, just, and then the recommended motion is a little, hard to read here. what I would recommend is that a commissioner make a motion to approve the budget for fiscal year 2024-25 in the total amount of $51,217,850 and hereby impose the property taxes provided for in the adopted budget at the rate of 0.0332 cents per thousand of assessed value of all taxable property within the district.
I so move.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Fine job reading.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And that's it. Confirmation of commission directed to staff, I don't think anything. And no executive session?
Unless there's a reason.
All right, then we are adjourned.